This is first unit, portfolio construction, and today's topic is efficient frontier. The efficient frontier, it is also known as portfolio frontier. So this is related with the modern portfolio theory, which was developed by the American economist Harry Markowitz in the year 1952. The efficient frontier, it is a group of optimal portfolios. Optimal portfolio is a portfolio which gives the highest return for a minimum level of risk. So this frontier, this can be taken, or this has to be plotted on the graph. That means it is a graphical representation where on the x-axis we will give the risk measurement, or risk measurement will be done on the x-axis, and on the y-axis expected return will be plotted. So it gives the risk return trade-off of a portfolio. I can say that for building or for making this frontier, there are three important factors. So first one is risk, that is it is denoted by standard deviation, and on the y-axis expected return, and the covariance of one asset's return to that of another asset. Before knowing the graphical representation of efficient frontier, let us know what is efficient portfolio. So it is a portfolio which gives a higher amount of return with some amount of risk, or less amount of risk where the securities have the same amount of return. That means here some amount of risk should be there to attain the higher amount of returns. If the investor is expecting higher returns, then he has to bear some risk. Or if he is not ready to take the risk, or he wants less amount of risk to be taken, then with the same securities he has the same amount of return. That means even at 0%, he is going to have some amount of return based on the level of risk. So a portfolio is considered as efficient when there is no other portfolio which gives a higher return at the same risk, or a lower risk for the same expected return. So in other words, we can say that it is a set of portfolios or a group of portfolios which satisfy the condition that no other portfolio exists with a higher expected return with the same level of risk, with the amount of some level of risk. So here there should not be any other portfolio which is present higher than the expected return which is present at that particular level of risk. Next, efficient frontier. We'll see the graph here. So here x-axis is denoted with standard deviation, that is risk is taken on x-axis, and y-axis is denoted with expected returns. So here various levels of risk and returns are given, like standard deviation 1 and 2, wherein the expected returns are plotted. So this efficient frontier, the points on this drawn on this curve or efficient portfolios, and above these points, whatever points are there, those are not attainable. Here the investor is not going to get those in returns at this level of risk. And below the frontier, whatever points are there, those are called as inefficient, as the level of risk is more and returns are less. So I'll just show it in a simple way by drawing a graph. X-axis and y-axis. Zero, say 10, 15 and 20. So x-axis is denoted with standard deviation, that is the risk measurement, and y-axis is taken by expected returns. So here, to this level of risk, this much of returns can be expected, or more than this, that is 15%. Okay, so like this, different. If the risk is 15%, then sometimes there will be less returns or more returns also. So how the efficient frontier is going to get means, that is nothing but here, to the maximum returns and maximum risk, the point present here, that is 20, is the highest point. So from this, point, I am going to draw the curve. So here, this curve is called as efficient frontier, wherein the points, like if I denote it with the P and this as Q, and this as R, so these are the possibilities of drawing an portfolio. So here, for this particular level of risk, 10% of risk, the investor is going to get a 10% return, and to the maximum he can get up to 15% of returns, not beyond that. So he is not able to get 20% return with the level of risk he has taken as 10%. So for this 10% risk, he is going to get to the maximum 15% only, not beyond that, because this is a boundary wherein it suggests that beyond this boundary line, the portfolios cannot be attainable. And below this boundary line, these points which are present or portfolios present are called as inefficient, because the level of risk is more and the returns are lesser. So see here, suppose if you take this point, say at level 20% risk. The level of returns to the maximum extent he can get only 20%. So 20 to 20, it's not the efficient portfolio called, because to the level of to this particular level he is getting the same returns, not more than that. So that's why the points below this frontier curve are called as inefficient, and above these are nothing but those are not attainable. The investor is not going to get that much of returns with this minimum level of risk. So this is called as efficient frontier. Always a rational investor will think about higher returns for a certain level of risk. So if the risk is minimum, if the level of risk he is taking is less, then the same amount of return he expects. Otherwise, if he wants to more returns, then to a certain level of extent he has to take the risk. So that is what Markowitz says, that to attain the expected returns, then the investor has to take certain level of risk. So as risk is unavoidable, the investor has to take risk to get the expected returns. So otherwise, if we want to invest, if we want to get less returns, that means if we want to take less risk, then to a certain level he is going to get the returns. That is, here you can see that to even at 0% risk also, the investor is going to get certain level of returns. So based on the based on the levels, how much risk he is going to bear, based on that he is going to get the return. So here if he is going to take 10% risk, then to the maximum 15% returns can be attainable. So beyond that he cannot attain. So that what this Markowitz says, that the efficient frontier is the boundary wherein the efficient portfolios can be selected. So beyond that it is not possible, and below this frontier curve whatever portfolios are present, those are inefficient portfolios according to Markowitz. Hope you have understood the concept well. Thank you.